Hello, like to welcome all castaways to Île de Bezençon. Can Wiv Kristiansen please report to the customs desk? Wiv Kristiansen to the customs desk, now.
Hello Internet and welcome. Ellie calling once more. Here we are on the beautiful, sunny and not at all snowy Île de Bezençon, where somehow it's always the first 2 weeks in May. The sun is shining. It's cold, but we don't mind. Coffee and local beverages are free and plentiful, but we have a very restrictive policy on musical imports. Every Eurovision fan who comes to stay here is only allowed to bring 8 songs for the duration of their stay. And here at the customs desk, I am here to pass judgment on whether their 8 songs are acceptable or not, and generally have a nice chat. We also offer our guests the chance to bring a Eurovision luxury. The definition of a luxury is a bit vague, but we'll work it out as we go along. And unlike other famous castaway destinations, we don't give you the Bible and Shakespeare. We give you Waterloo and Volare, neither of which are in blank verse. And here's my castaway emerging from the quay. Could I take your name, please?
I'm Wiv Kristiansen.
And what's your connection with Eurovision?
Well, my connection with Eurovision is that, at least for the present, I'm working with ESCXtra. Well, other than that, Eurovision has always been part of my life.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
What do you do outside Eurovision?
I'm a teacher. So I teach reading, and I'm responsible for the reading program in a school from 1st to 10th grade in Oslo.
Get them while they're young. Mm-hmm. So let's get straight onto the paperwork.
Yes.
Your first record, let's just have a little listen. We have the peerless, timeless La Papa Penguin by Sophie and Magali. That was Luxembourg 1980, La Papa Penguin.
Yes, and it is such a wonderfully fun and happy song. And in addition to that, I have the most amazingly fun memories. Because I don't remember, it was 1980?
Yes, it was.
Yeah. I was 11.
Okay.
And my best friend and I, we learned this song. And we would walk around our neighborhood, ringing on people's doors. And when they opened, we would sing this for them.
That's like a service you could order by an app now.
Yeah. And of course, in costume. My mom made us like bow ties and everything, so we matched, and it was amazing. I'm not entirely sure if people paid us because they thought we were good, or if it was the only way to make us stop singing.
That's how it works with carol singers, I believe.
Yeah. But it was it's one of those memories that you kind of carry your whole life, and we still tend to do this after a couple of glasses of champagne without the bow ties.
Into 3 decades.
Yep.
Of La Papa Penguin.
And I mean, that penguin, who can not love him?
I think as songs go, it is very unfairly maligned.
Yeah.
And Eurovision's not just for the grown-ups. Eurovision is also for the children who are staying up late.
Yeah.
And thrilled by the world that they see around them.
Yeah. Which is where my Eurovision history started. Because my mom has always been into Eurovision. Mm-hmm. Not like a super, super fan, but above average.
Okay.
And that was the one night of the year where I didn't have to go to bed if I didn't want to.
Nice.
Like whenever. It's like that is like a very good beginning. I mean, what kid wouldn't love that?
And to this day, Eurovision is freedom and staying up late.
It is.
And being really silly.
Yeah. And, I mean, having a mom who would watch Eurovision every year, of course, this was an extra excuse for us to do something together. So I have like all kinds of warm and fuzzy memories of Eurovision growing up. I don't even remember what's the first Eurovision I actually remember. I think I remember ABBA, but I'm not really sure because, of course, we've talked about it. We've seen it so many times.
Yeah.
But I think I remember ABBA.
Let's give you La Papa Penguin.
Thank you.
Accepted.
And I can teach everyone else here the choreography and we can sing it together. And I'll bring bow ties.
I am not responsible for the other inhabitants trying to kick you off the island.
No. Okay. Maybe not then.
But I'll join in.
Thank you.
Your second record is from France, 2008. It's silly France rather than serious France.
Yeah.
And it's Divine by Sébastien Tellier.
And divine it is.
It absolutely is. That was Divine by Sébastien Tellier.
Yeah. First of all, the man's a genius. There is no doubt about that. Listen to everything else that he's written, and it is just as divine. The thing is, when I first heard this song, I realized that this is going to be my favorite this year, no matter what else gets picked. And then 2 weeks before Eurovision, he actually came to Oslo and did a concert at my favorite jazz club. And of course I was there. And I was sitting on the first row, on bar stools, right in front of the stage. And I didn't move for the 3 hours that the concert lasted. My friends just kept bringing me wine.
Nice.
And he was on that stage for 3 hours straight without a break. He never once took his sunglasses off. He probably... You can picture it, right?
Yeah. Of course he didn't take his sunglasses off.
And he probably had like 15 pints of beer or something and smoked a pack of cigarettes.
I hope they were Gauloises.
No, I think they were just Marlboros.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So he wasn't the full template French jazz singer.
Not quite.
Okay.
But the weird thing though is even though we didn't once see his eyes, I think this was possibly the most intense concert experience that I have ever had, because he just walked in there and owned the room. And it was just, I'm getting goosebumps just talking about it.
But for the casual Eurovision viewer, they will have just thought, here's a very silly man doing a novelty song.
But it's not really a novelty song.
No.
But the performance is novelty.
Yeah. The song is about the power of loving a band and loving a song.
Yeah.
Which, that is a very good genre of song for Eurovision, I think.
It is.
Yeah.
And it perfectly describes my relationship with David Bowie, who is my musical god. So it's like I relate to this song on so many levels. It was really depressing though what happened at Eurovision with the backing singers just hitting the entirely wrong key, and the whole thing was just a car crash. It even had a
golf cart crash.
Yeah. So and I think there were just too many gimmicks.
Yeah,
it's like you had the golf cart, you had the bearded backing singers, you had the helium balloon thingy. It was like it was just a bit much of everything.
I don't think he was ever going to be able to cram the intensity of that 3-hour jazz gig into 3 minutes, though.
No, but the video is cool.
Yeah.
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 That year I taught 7th grade, and they loved this song and the video because, of course, I play all the songs to my students and have them vote and everything. And they would request that song for when we were eating.
Okay.
And they would use the banana as a microphone.
Oh.
So they would throw the banana back and forth in the classroom. At the same time, he would throw the microphone. It was really cute.
That is very adorable.
Yeah.
Accepted.
Thank you.
You really are getting them young.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah. You
Good.
have to.
We have to bring in the next generation.
Yeah. I call it my... it's my calling as a teacher, raising the next generation of Eurovision lunatics.
Yep. We need them.
Yeah.
Your next record is Iceland 1991. Now, as an Icelandic linguist, would you like to introduce this one for me?
Well, this song is called Draumur Nínu, and it's performed by the wonderful Stefán og Eyvi.
Is it Dreams of Children?
Nei.
No?
It's a woman's name.
Oh, right.
Nina.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Dreaming of Nina?
Yeah.
Ah, okay.
This song it actually is a life changer for me. It did literally change my life. Not until quite a few years later, though. Mm-hmm. But this is step number 2 at becoming Icelandic.
Okay. You're going to have to unpack that a bit.
Well, it all started when I was 8, and I read a book that took place in Iceland.
Oh, okay.
Like a children's book.
That's not generally how people become Icelandic.
Really? Are you sure about this?
I'm sure there must be more to it.
Yeah.
Do go on.
And already then, I kind of realized that I need to be Icelandic, or at least I need to go to Iceland. And then, of course, nothing happened. You're 8 and you don't really make the decisions yourself. Mm-hmm. But it was always there at the back of my head, sort of going like, oh, every time I heard someone speak Icelandic or read something about Iceland, so I followed Icelandic culture fairly closely. And I was super happy when they finally joined Eurovision. And I could hear Icelandic more often. And then this song happened. And I didn't understand a word of it, obviously, back then. But there was just something that totally grabbed me. And I realized, you know what? I need to understand what they're singing about. Not just having someone tell me what the song's about. Mm-hmm. I need to understand the words.
Yes.
Yeah. So I need to learn Icelandic. I didn't really do anything about it for quite a few years, though. But again, it was always a presence. This thinking, okay, one day I'm going to learn Icelandic. And then in 2004, well, actually 2005, I met Jónsi for the first time.
Okay.
And in 2004, I discovered his band, Ísvörtum Fötum.
Hang on, you've missed a step. How did you meet Jónsi?
Well, through Eurovision.
Okay.
Obviously. Which is how things happen in this world, isn't it?
Yeah, that's basically how I know most people now.
Yeah. Actually, I sent him an email regarding something entirely different, and we started chatting and realized that we had a lot in common, and we just kind of became friends. Which is what happens in the Euroverse.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then this desire to understand the lyrics of his band, their songs, just sort of reminded me of this. I really do need to learn Icelandic. And that's when I started actually learning Icelandic. So I started taking an evening class, which was mainly cultural and not so much language. And then I came to Iceland for the first time in 2011.
For the other language speakers, how close are Icelandic and Norwegian?
Not very.
Not very.
Well, actually, it is kind of what people call the Viking language. It's the language that was spoken in the area that is now the Nordic countries 1,000 years ago.
Whereas the languages spoken in the Nordic countries now are more Germanic.
Yeah. But not. It's like Iceland has kept the old language.
Okay.
With all the weird conjugations and things, while Norwegian, Swedish, and Danish has turned into almost like dialects of the same language.
Yeah.
At least if you speak slowly.
So to you, do modern Icelanders sound like Chaucer does to modern English speakers, or
probably or even more
pre? Well, yeah, okay,
pre.
Yeah.
I think it's extremely fascinating, though, that Icelanders today can actually read the sagas in the original form. It's not written in modern Icelandic, obviously, but you can understand it. And there's no way we in Norway can read the sagas, even though we have the same sagas, and originally we could. So, yeah, I find that extremely fascinating.
Yeah.
So, and yeah, but I ended up going to Iceland in 2011.
Okay.
And there's also a Eurovision connection to that. Do we have time for another one?
Do it.
Yeah. When I went to Düsseldorf, I became friends with the Icelandic artists.
Yep.
And especially Thorun, who also happened to have written the Icelandic entry this year. And when we were leaving Düsseldorf, I was talking to them in the airport. And I got talking to Benny, the drummer, about running, because we both run.
Okay.
And I was like thinking of maybe perhaps sometime considering doing a half marathon at some point in the future. Maybe.
Yeah.
And he said, well, if you decide to do it, you should do the Reykjavik one because it's completely flat. It's a perfect beginner's half marathon.
That is a very good point.
Yeah. And this was obviously end of May-ish. And then I had this slightly... Are we allowed to talk about alcohol on this show?
Yes.
Thank you. I had this slightly red wine marinated Saturday night.
A perfect marathon preparation.
Yeah. And when I woke up on the Sunday morning, I was like, did I go online last night and order something?
Oh, that good a night.
Yeah, that good a night. So I checked my inbox.
Yep.
And right enough, there was the registration for the half marathon in August.
Yep.
Flights to Iceland booked. Woo-hoo. And hostel booked. It's like, it seems I'm going to Iceland and I'm obviously doing a half marathon too.
So Drunk Viv made good decisions.
Yes,
good.
Very. And that was kind of the beginning with my true passion for Iceland. Because I came back in October, then I came back for Söngvakeppnin, and then I actually stayed there all July the year after, doing an introductory course at the university. And then in August 2013, I moved there to learn Icelandic at the university.
Wow.
And
that's quite a step.
Yeah, and it's all because of Draumur Nínu.
We have to accept it.
And I also have a tiny little anecdote from Iceland that involves the artists.
Go for it. Go for it.
This was the first time I came to Iceland.
Okay.
The night after my half marathon, exhausted, super emotional. And the Reykjavik half marathon is always on the same day as something called Menningarnótt, Culture Night.
Okay.
And there's always a huge concert with a lot of famous Icelandic singers. And I didn't know this, but Stefán og Eyvi were on stage. They were singing Draumur Nínu, and I was just crying. Oh. There I was, my first time in Iceland, my favorite song, the reason why I'm here at all. Me and like 10,000 Icelandic people singing along. And there was this tiny little Icelandic guy. He was probably like 150, well, 94 or something. And he was just petting my arm saying, it's all going to be fine.
I think it was fine at that moment. You
fine.
were receiving a message from the universe telling you that your choices were good.
And when I finally met Stefán Hilmarsson, I told him the story. And he looks at me and he says, and now you're going to make me cry.
Oh!
So that's just Iceland for you.
Yeah.
And also slightly sentimental, Viv.
Yeah. Oh, you've nearly got me going now. So we've accepted Drama Ninu.
Thank you.
So let's cheer things up with a Nordic death ballad. Woohoo!
Yay!
This is Norway 2015 and A Monster Like Me by Morland and Deborah Scarlett. We never did find out what he did when he was young.
No.
And we don't want to. That was A Monster Like Me.
I think it's just fine not knowing.
You can make it whatever your own darkest secret is.
Yes, and you can also let him have his.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. This is the song that represents something I never thought was going to happen. Mm-hmm. Norway was actually my number one.
It's good when that happens.
Yeah, it's never happened before. And I had kind of given up hope. And then this came along. And it just made me so happy. It's such a wonderful song. And for the people who might have followed the ESCXtra live stream from Vienna, they will understand what I'm talking about when when I connect tissues with this song. Because there's this one moment, you know, when the light goes on and it just lifts. Yeah,
yes.
That moment.
Yeah.
I would start crying every single time at every single rehearsal, and the boys of ESCXtra would just run to get me tissues.
Oh, I find that there's a lot more crying at Eurovision than I expected.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's emotional.
Yeah.
Music is emotional.
It's happy cry.
Yeah.
Or I'm having a big feeling and I don't know what it is cry. But yeah, there is a lot of crying.
There is.
Will you need the tissues during your customs hearing?
I might.
All right.
I just might. But this is actually one of the songs that I don't really have a story to. It's just that it's a wonderful song and it was finally my favorite.
You did just tell me a story about the live stream and the tissues
the crying.
there. So, yeah, the crying.
I am kind of pathetic sometimes.
No, it's not pathetic. You were feeling it. You were really feeling it. Okay, we will accept A Monster Like Me.
Thank you.
Thank you for bringing it. I like it too.
Yeah.
And now your fifth record, an underrepresented genre at Eurovision. We have the Motown fabulousness of All to You by the Rounder Girls.
Yeah.
Always on my mind, but baby, take me. And everything I feel is from the bottom of my heart. Yeah. I'll give you everything I have. I'll give you what you never had. Why don't you take me, my baby? Hold me for all time and never leave me. Leave me. I will always be by your side, always on my mind. You take what's wrong and make it right. I really need you, feel you, wrap me in your arms.
That was the Rounder Girls, Austria 2000, and All to You.
Yay.
And over to you, Viv.
Thank you. It was kind of accidental that this is the song I chose from 2000.
Is this one of your big years?
Yes.
Okay.
I think this is my favorite year. It's the year where I think I have like 5 or 6 songs that I kind of struggled with picking which was my favorite.
Yeah, you seem to have a lot of trouble with your list.
Yes. I mean, I managed to pick the first 7 fairly okay, but then I had like a short list of 50 for slot number 8. But I mean, my obvious favorite that year would be Brainstorm.
Yeah.
It's such an excellent song, but I do believe that Charlene already brought that.
Yes, she did.
Yeah, so then I decided that it's already here. I
You
can listen
borrow
to
her
hers.
copy, yeah.
And I decided that I really need something to dance to. And then this is the obvious choice. It's such a happy song, and it's so fun to sing along to.
I was singing and dancing at the customs desk right here.
Yep, she was.
Yep.
I can confirm that.
My epaulets were flying.
And I mean, the performance is so colorful, and they just look so happy. And every time I think about it, it just makes me smile and hum and do that little, yeah.
We're dancing on a podcast.
It's like even doing dishes. This makes me happy.
What more can you want, really?
I know.
Deep and meaningful is all very well.
Flimsy is all well, I think.
Sorry?
It needs to be flimsy sometimes as well.
It does.
Yeah.
It takes all sorts. You can't necessarily always dance to the deep and meaningful ones, and dance is a part of life.
It is. And this is just the perfect song to just letting your hair down and just pretending you're alone in the world.
Dancing like nobody is watching.
Yes. Or at least like no one's caring.
Have you ever been caught dancing like nobody's watching to this when indeed somebody was watching?
Yeah.
Oh.
Do you want the story behind this as well?
Yes, I do. Yeah, we're here for the stories, really.
Yeah. Well, I was, of course, this is also Eurovision related.
These are all Eurovision stories. This is a Eurovision island.
This was during Eurovision in Oslo, 2010.
Yeah.
And we were having a party at my place.
Yeah.
It was May and it was fairly warm for May in Oslo.
Okay.
So I just told everyone that I'm going to leave the back door open from the terrace. So you can just walk in when you get here. I'm not very good at being like ready when the guests arrive, which is why I always host things at my place, because then it doesn't matter. They can just come and I can walk around with my hair in a turban and prepare the food and whatever.
Yeah.
What I hadn't expected, though, was that people would actually show up at 7 when I invited them at 7.
Norwegians punctual?
Norwegians are, but these weren't Norwegians.
Okay.
So, yeah. And they had kind of warned me we might be a bit late.
Ah, right. Okay.
So there I was in my... I was semi-dressed. I was decent. Hair in... still in a towel, turban. Dancing in my stilettos to this, setting the table.
Quite an image.
Yeah. And no one normally watches me when I set the table. So yeah, that was an interesting sight. I can imagine.
Beautiful. I'm glad that so far none of your stories have involved nudity. Unless you were naked at some of the other times.
And I don't really... I don't think there's going to be any nudity.
Well, that's disappointing. Well, anyway, you can have the Rounder Girls.
Okay, thank you.
Accepted.
Yeah. Oh, then we can party.
Woo!
Yay!
Your 6th record is Macedonia 2004, Life by Tosia Proeski.
Yes.
You gotta read it. Life is a story and you gotta tell it. Life is a song and you gotta sing it. You got to know how to live it. Walking around with some thoughts on my mind, I search for a place where I'll be free from all that I said and all that's been done. It'll be hard to find it inside of me. Life is a book and you gotta read it. Life is a story and you gotta tell it. Life is a song and you gotta sing it. You've got to know how to live it. Life is a book and you gotta read it. Life is a story and you gotta tell it. Life is a
And that was Tosia Proeski with Life. Would you like to tell me what this song means to you?
Oh, I'm probably going to start crying, but okay. I love this song from the first time I heard it. There's something, especially with the beat, that just drives me. It just keeps... you know how even no matter how much you try, you just cannot sit still? With me, it's the shoulders.
Yes.
They will just start going like this no matter what I do.
Oh, you were sitting next to me in the rehearsal yesterday.
Yeah.
I understand.
And the beat of this song is entirely unique. And even though the lyrics are kind of naive, I mean, life is a book and you got to read it. It is still true, though, even though it's completely overflowing with cliches.
They're cliches for a reason.
Yeah, they are. So I think the idea behind the song is really good. His voice is possibly the best thing that's ever graced a Eurovision stage, or any stage for that matter. He can totally do no wrong.
And you became a super fan.
I became a super fan. And what is really cute, though, is I played some of his songs in class. And one of my students, his family were from Macedonia.
Oh!
And he brought me, when he went there on summer holiday, my first Tosha Presky CD.
Oh!
As a gift.
Yeah.
So I've been collecting ever since. I went to Serbia for Biovica in 2013 and got a handful of CDs then. And people have been sending me stuff, and yeah. So I have an impressive Tosha Presky collection, and I just love his voice. I don't always like his songs, but his voice is always stunning. And of course, then there's the tragic story,
which I didn't know, and I think a lot of our listeners might not have known.
Really?
Yeah.
So you want me to go into that?
Could you just briefly?
Yeah, I can try. I remember how I found out about this because I was checking Eurovision news online, and it said something about in memoriam and a concert, and it mentioned Tosha Presky, and I'm like, oh, he's playing a memorial concert for someone, and then I opened the article. And it's actually a memorial concert for him because he died in a car crash. He was driving, he'd been in Macedonia doing a TV show, and he was driving back to, I think, Croatia for a concert the next day. And his car, or the car he was a passenger in the front seat. And they just drove into a truck that was in front of them.
Oh.
And he was killed instantaneously. And I mean, this kind of shows me that my soul isn't entirely Nordic, because I went into this kind of weird mourning over this. And Norwegians don't do that. At least not like publicly.
Yeah.
It's like the only time we've had anything like this is when our previous king died, when everyone turned up and lit candles outside the royal palace and stuff. Normally that's not done up here. In the Balkans, on the other hand, people are emotional and they're showing it. And there was like his when his body was brought back to Skopje for the funeral and everything, it was on TV. Like direct on TV, everything, like seeing the helicopter land and the procession and everything. And they had like 3 days of mourning.
Wow.
Yeah, and the funeral was on TV, and it was the archbishop that did the funeral, and it was just massive. And there I was following this in my little corner of the world. Yeah, it's just, and as I said earlier, I still sometimes, when I'm really kind of, oh, Macedonia, why are you doing this year again? I'm thinking, why don't you just send Tosha Presky? And I'm like, oh no, that's not going to happen, is it? It's like he's such a presence in my life still that I sometimes forget that he's dead. And then it's like, oh. And then, of course, I have to listen to some of his songs, and everything's a bit better again.
He'll never truly leave us.
No, he won't.
So we will accept Toja's beautiful song, Life.
Thank you.
Your 7th song.
Yeah.
I can't wait to see what stories connected with this. Were you the woman in the mask? Is Turkey 2010. It's Manga with We Could Be the Same.
All this time, I've been loving you. Don't even know your name. For just one night, we could be the same. No matter what they say. No matter what they say.
Fly. That was Manga with We Could Be the Same. So, were you the woman in the mask?
Yeah.
With the angle grinder?
Yep.
You're very good with the hardware.
I am. No, that wasn't me. It should have been. It could have been.
You would have.
Yeah, I would have. Oh, would I ever? No nudity. No, this is sort of a Eurovision first for me.
Yep.
And it's also very much my kind of music. And I discovered Manga because of Morveötesi.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was actually going to bring Morveötesi, but then I realized that Sam already did. I think.
We're covered for that.
Because when I really loved them and their song. I also have a couple of their CDs. And when I was looking for more of their music on YouTube, YouTube told me you should check out Manga.
Oh, yeah, you should.
Yeah. So I did and fell completely in love with them from the first note. And I was like thinking, you know what? That would be so perfect if they would just once do Eurovision. And then they did. And they did it in Oslo.
Yay!
And obviously that was my first year as a Eurovision journalist. And they were my first Eurovision interview.
Oh, well, that's convenient.
Yeah. And it was completely by accident because back in Oslo, they put the interview lists in the reception. Mm-hmm. Or the information desk, and you just signed up, and whoever signed up got like a slot on their schedule.
It's a lot less casual nowadays.
Yeah. And as luck would have it, I was standing there asking for something else when Turkey's interview list was put on the desk.
Another message from the universe.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So I was, of course, real quick, and I got the first slot.
Nice.
Yeah. And I always like to be, fairly well prepared. And I also like to be on time or a bit ahead of time.
Yeah.
So when I went over to the interview cubicle, it was like 7 minutes, 8 minutes before they were set to arrive. And they had already come. So after a couple minutes, they said, so ESC Norge, Vivian, is she here yet? I was like, yeah. And they were like, okay, well, we can just start now and then you can have like a few extra minutes.
Yay.
I was like, really? No. I was like, yes. So we went into the interview cubicle and there were like a sofa and a couple of chairs and the table in between. And we were just sat down and
that's when you got out the angle grinder.
That's, yeah, something like that. But we just sat down and he just looks me in the eyes. And I mean, those eyes, those eyes. And he says, so, and smiles. And my mind is just completely blank. There is nothing there.
Oh boy. Oh boy. Oh.
And I just sit there staring into his eyes, and it feels like it goes on for hours.
I'm cringing into a fetal position.
But the thing is, I think it only lasted for like a second and a half.
Okay, yeah.
It just felt like forever.
Yeah.
And it felt like I like physically had to take my hand and rip my ice off of his. But thankfully, I had my notebook with me with all the questions written down.
Oh, good. So you just had to do it.
Yeah. And I did. And I don't think anyone noticed anything. But it still makes me go like, oh, blushing. But it was, I got through it. It was such a good interview. And they're such nice guys. And I still love their song. They did an unplugged version of it that is really, really beautiful. If you haven't checked that out, maybe we could have a backup of... no, but we're not allowed to bring doubles, are we?
No.
Okay. No, original one it is then.
Okay,
yeah.
Original one.
Yeah, we need rock. We need more rock on this island, I think.
We're going to accept that because it seems very unlikely that any more amazing Turkish rock songs are going to be coming through Eurovision anytime soon.
I know. It's kind of depressing, isn't it? And they have so much good rock music.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we'll just have to keep our fingers crossed.
Keep our fingers crossed for a change in the state of the world.
Yeah.
And
until then, we'll just enjoy Morvötesi and manga.
We always have manga.
Yeah.
So your last record...
Well, that's a surprise, isn't it?
Your final record.
Yeah.
We have one of the only winners that you've actually brought.
Yep.
We've your only winner that you've brought to the island. We have Believe by Dima Bilan. And there goes Dima with his 3 kitchen sink staging. Russia 2008, Dima Bilan, Believe.
Yeah.
What does this one mean to you?
Actually, I had picked a different winner.
Yeah?
Which is my favorite winner. Is basically the only year my favorite one, which would be What's Another Year. But I decided that I really, really need to bring this song because it has such a good story. At least I think so. Well, first of all, the first time I heard it, I was like, oh, this isn't very good, is it? And then I listened to it again. And I was like, you know what? This might actually win the whole thing. And the next time I listened to it, it was like, yeah, but it's not really good, is it? And then I heard it again, and I was like, well, people are going to vote for this.
Yeah.
So I just couldn't make my mind up. I couldn't decide, is this a good song or isn't it?
There's something very insistent about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But what actually won me over, cheesy as it may seem, are the lyrics. Because these are such wonderful lyrics to work with children.
Oh, okay.
Because I use them when I teach English.
Yep.
And I have the kids translate. Because the lyrics are basically just telling you that as long as you believe and you're willing to put the work in and try and try and try again, there's nothing you can't do.
Step 1, believe in it.
Yep. And both because this is a wonderful message to send to the kids, but also because it's a message I've always believed in.
Yeah.
So I do wish, though, that if you are going to bring a world champion, an Olympic champion, Eurovision...
Have more ice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, just leave the ice to him.
Yeah.
I mean, there's little enough of it. Why do you also have to be on the ice?
Mystifying.
Yeah.
Mystifying.
Totally.
But the staging for that was mystifying anyway.
Yeah. And I also wish he was tiny bit better live.
Well, let's not talk ourselves out of this.
No, but I mean the lyrics of this song, they're strong, and even though there are cliches, I don't think they're as in your face as they could have been.
No,
they're kind of subtle cliches. Can you say that?
Subtle cliches.
Yeah, I'm going to say it anyway.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. Subtle cliches.
Yeah. And I mean, he's fairly good looking.
I believe so.
Yeah.
So we'll accept that.
Thank you.
You've successfully got all of your 8 records through the customs desk. So, Viv, we normally at this point ask people to nominate a special Eurovision-related luxury to bring with them to Île de Bezençon. What have you chosen?
Well, I have been thinking about this a lot because there are a lot of Eurovision luxuries I would like to bring. But then I decided that we have a lot of great music. I don't know, though, if we have anyone who's capable of sort of organizing or planning perfect performances. So I think we need someone to help us with choreography.
Ooh,
yes.
Okay.
So I am going to bring my favorite person in the world, who's also excellent at choreography, especially when it comes to Spanish entries. So my luxury is going to be Rodrigo.
Fantastic.
I need to tell him, though, that he's coming.
Well, I'm going to leave the arrangements of that to you because, but yeah, that's an interesting addition to the island. Would there be any of your 8 records that you would like to award a 12 points special honour to?
Oh. All of them? No, if I have to pick one, which would that be? That would probably have to be... I think it would have to be Manga.
Yeah. Manga. 12 points to Manga.
Yeah.
So thank you very much for coming and seeing us here at Île de Bezençon and passing through my customs desk, Viv. Let's get your plug in.
Yeah. We over at ESCXtra will keep doing our live stream, and I hope as many of you as possible will join us. It's always a lot more fun on the live stream when there are people helping us ask the questions.
Yeah, otherwise you're just doing dramatic readings of lyrics into nothing.
Oh, but we're quite good at that as well. So if you do enjoy dramatic readings, do come over to the ESCXtra live stream. And otherwise, just follow us on Instagram and everywhere and enjoy Eurovision.
That was Eurovision Castaways for ESC Insight. I've been your host, Ellie Chalkley. Thanks for listening. And now, the guitars.